I, 46 female, have a daughter, 17 female in senior year, who has become so lazy in the past 5 months. Has only been going to school and coming back and sleeping. I was worried about her grades recently, so I called her teacher and she informed me that she was still ahead in all of her classes, though she had other concerns. Her teacher has told me that she was worried about her as she is completely changed and doesn't speak now. Walks in and out of class whilst avoiding her friends. Even though her friends sit with her, she would just ignore them completely. She used to be talkative, friendly at school, and would always hang out with the same people. Her best friend that she's known for 8 years has been trying to reach her alongside her other friends, and she arrived at my door a couple of days ago, asking if she could see her, and my daughter would always be asleep or say she isn't in the mood. I spoke with my daughter to see if they did, and she just said they haven't done anything and she just can't stand anyone anymore. From doing nothing but sleeping, she has become so frail. Though after nearly 4 months into the semester, I have told her repeatedly that she will not be anything in life if she carries on this way. She would just ignore me or lock her room so I can come in, or if she's annoyed, she will start arguing with me. On Sunday, I went to work, though before I put her basket of newly washed clothes outside of her room and told her to fold it so that she can put it in her wardrobe, and I told her that it better be done before I arrive. She gave a faint okay. I came back a couple hours later to find the basket in the same spot unfolded. I knocked for minutes on end and she just told me to stop. I don't know what came over me, but I got the crowbar from the back and started to take off her lock. After completely denting it, the side facing me came off after a couple of tries and I twisted the bolt. I brought her basket in after finding her standing up behind the door. I proceeded to yell at her and she starts crying, which she hasn't done for a while. We start yelling and saying hurtful things to each other for a while, and after her calling me a monster and failure of a mom, I told her that I would have never had you if you turned out this way. She was clearly taken aback by it, though in the moment it was the truth. All she does is nothing. She just walked out of the house for a couple of hours doing God knows what, though she's been acting completely different since Sunday. She would listen to me and actually leave the house. Every time I came into her room, she would be writing a manuscript. Though it all feels wrong and inauthentic, she seems to have been upset by it deeply. Maybe it's good, as she is now being how I want her to be, though I understand how that could be misconstrued. I can tell that she's trying hard to avoid me, though is still being really friendly. So, am I in the wrong for telling my daughter that I would never have had you if you turned out this way? My boyfriend said I don't truly love him if I'm not letting him live his life, including flirting with other girls and dating others. We've been together on and off for 5 years. Met in 2018, and 3 months later I found out that he was talking to someone else. Then he went to another country and we were long distance. I've always worried that he would leave me. I'm not good enough because of my mental health. I found out that he was going on dates with another girl in said country from a gut feeling. Ended up with him confessing that he wants to break up. We broke up in June 2019, but after stalking, I realized that they had been dating since March 2019. I was turned and became obsessive with their relationship. We didn't speak for a whole year. Reconnected early 2021 after they broke up. Started dating and it was okay, until I broke down knowing that he was going on an exchange to another country this year. I told him my fears about him finding someone else and replacing me. He said I'm too insecure, and he doubted if I really love him. He said love should be unconditional, and I should be happy if he's happy. He said he wants freedom, and he wants me to be in his life forever. But why can't I be happy if he's happy dating other girls? Why would I limit his life? He said it to me as if it's a favor that he didn't see anyone else this past 2 years. He even told me out of frustration that he would just rather live his life, date, and sleep with other girls, and if I truly loved him then I would stay. I can't let go of this and I'm feeling extremely depressed. All my friends are polyamorous, so I suspect that they would think that this is okay, and I'm an asshole for limiting my boyfriend's life experience. So, am I in the wrong for feeling this way?
Am I wrong for purposely giving alcohol to Mormons? I, 31 male, am a classically trained French chef. I have spent the last 11 years training and cooking in restaurants in France, and I am an American citizen. I met my wife, 26 female, 5 years ago when she was on vacation in France. We fell in love and she lived with me in France. When we decided we wanted to start a family, she expressed a desire to move back to her hometown of Salt Lake City, Utah, in the USA so we can be closer to her family. We had made the move as of last week. I was wondering where the Mormon came into the story. When we made the official move into our house, moving in some furniture from France and some bought furniture stateside, we had a bunch of neighbors come out and help us. What was expected to take 4 or 5 hours of moving in and arranging and putting away ended up taking 2 hours as suddenly 15 people came over to help, with snacks and drinks and advice about the home and neighborhood. I was so grateful and surprised at this kindness, so I offered to cook them all a grand meal 3 days later. Some turned the offer down because their kids are scheduled, others because helping neighbors move is just the Mormon thing to do. I ended up cooking a 4-course French dinner for 3 other couples. They all absolutely love my entree of giga qui plero with a pan sauce, some even asking for seconds of it. I ended up making copies of the recipe for them as a final thank you since they loved it so much. When I gave them the recipes, they looked absolutely shocked. They didn't realize the pan sauce had red wine in it and they are not allowed to consume alcohol because they are Mormons. They ended up getting very angry at me, saying I'm trying to corrupt them with alcohol and that I should respect other people's beliefs and dietary restrictions. My wife is very upset and feels like I ruined our first chance at making friends in our new neighborhood. People I have talked to about this have been very split about it if I am an asshole or not. Some say I should have studied up on Mormon dietary restrictions and modified my recipes to match, while others have said that as the people with the dietary restrictions, they should have mentioned them well before the preparation of the meal to make sure those restrictions are met, just like someone with an allergy would mention it. So which side are you on? I faked proof that I had a flat tire so that the lazy people in my group project would have to do the presentation themselves, therefore likely fail. I'm in a class where a group research project/presentation is a huge chunk of overall points. Everyone knows in group projects, you always have that one slacker who doesn't do anything that you would have to compensate for. I got stuck with possibly the worst 3 people to be in a project within the class. I did the entire research, presentation, poster board, etc., among many other annoying things myself. I tried talking to them and telling them that they needed to put in their share of effort. Ignored. I'd send them tasks to do. Ignored. I tried to schedule meetings, they'd say they were coming and then leave me alone in the library. This happened from the get-go. It was abundantly clear that they expected everyone else to do the work, but everyone else turned out to just be me. Rule: we couldn't have things 100% memorized word for word, and we couldn't read off anything. We had to actually know the subject. I was fully prepared to do most of the talking and even wrote down a small script for them and told them to know what to say during their part at the very least. The night before, I told them we had to meet to at least go over the whole thing one time. Once again, none of them showed. At this point, I'm livid and I decided that they can just do it themselves, which means they'd get up there, not know a damn thing to say other than the small info I gave them, and couldn't even bullshit anything because they did no research. Thing is, if we miss without an excuse, we fail the project. If you have an excuse, you have to have documentation. I commute and live an hour away, so I decide that I'll conveniently have a flat tire right before class. Went out and actually bought a tire so I could have the receipt to prove it. Emailed the professor who said I can present by myself during his office hours. Turns out they completely bombed and not only probably failed the project, but since they're bad students, might even make them fail the class. The professor stated at the beginning that we were not allowed to contact him about people slacking in the group and said to work it out amongst ourselves. He said that we were adults and that he wouldn't even respond to emails about it.
I, 25 female, have a 2-year-old son from a previous relationship. After I gave birth, I was asked about birth control. I said yes please, and now I have Nexplanon, a birth control that gets inserted into your upper arm. I was told it lasts 3 years. Cut to now, my fiance, 27 male, told me that he wants a baby. I said I did too, just not now, and that I'd get my birth control out after the 3 years are up and I won't replace it. This wasn't soon enough for him. He wanted me pregnant now. I stood firm and said I'm not ready to have another baby. I want to be a little bit more stable, money-wise and in general. Fiance was mad and we got into a big argument. I brought up my son and told him how my son sees him as a father figure and that we already have a child to take care of when my birth control runs its course. All of a sudden, he started shouting at me, saying he wanted a baby that's biologically his and that every time he looks at my son, he gets angry. I asked him why and he told me it's because he sees my ex in my son. My son looks a lot like his father. He then went on to tell me that he doesn't feel like a parental figure to my son. He has no personal attachment to him. He says it's because my son isn't biologically his and he resents us for this. Hence the baby talk. He wanted my arm implant out immediately. I said no way, I'm not ready for another baby yet. We continued to argue about this until I'm finally tired and frustrated, so I say I'm done arguing and just head into our bedroom. An important fact to know is that I take medication to sleep, a pretty strong medication with a high dosage. It knocks me flat on my ass. The Sandman comes and slaps me across the face, so I'm down for the count. After the argument, I take my pills and go to bed. My fiance was still in the living room when I fell into a deep sleep. Now, another important fact. My fiance knows where my implant is, as it's very noticeable when you're feeling around for it. I'm sleeping when I stir slightly awake after I felt fingers on my upper arm, prodding. With my eyes still shut, I tell my fiance to stop poking me. I assumed he was just being petty and childish because of the fight. He doesn't stop, and 5 seconds after poking me, he presses down in the exact spot my Nexplanon is. At this point, I'm starting to get more alert and annoyed. I just wanted to sleep and I can't do that when I'm being jabbed. The minute I open my eyes, I notice that an object in his free hand, a box cutter, which was very close to my upper arm. Now I'm on full alert and ask him what the fuck he's doing. He immediately looks guilty and tries to throw excuses at me. I was just trying to scare you. I was just checking to make sure that you were alive and it's a coincidence I'm holding the box cutter. I called BS on every excuse and said I wanted the truth. He looked down and then told me that he was doing me a favor. What favor? Glad you asked. He was going to remove the Nexplanon from my arm. He said he's studied how to do it and he's confident that he can safely remove it. He said, we can start expanding our family now. No need to wait 8 months. I am livid. I immediately shout to him to get the F away from me and don't touch me. He tries to talk to me, but I keep yelling until he leaves. He can't stay at our house right now because he admitted that he was trying to cut into my arm, thus breaking my trust. Finally, he walked out of the bedroom and a minute later, I heard the front door open and close. It's been 3 hours and he still hasn't come back and I don't know what to do when he does. I don't know where we're going from here. I love this man dearly, but I don't think I can forgive and forget this. I don't know what to do. Please give me some advice. Part 2. My ex tried to cut my implant out while I was asleep. I ended up leaving last night with my son to stay at my mom's. I was confused, shocked, hurt, scared. I still am. At 7 this morning, my phone started buzzing like crazy. Texts, calls, voicemails, all were from him, asking me where I went and when I was coming home. I just don't even want to look at him or talk to him again. He called my mom while we were both sitting in the kitchen discussing everything. She asked me if I wanted her to answer it. I said I just didn't want to talk to him. My mom ended up answering and my ex was yelling, sounding panicky. He said I left with my son last night out of the blue and he's worried. No mention of our fight. He asked when my mom last heard of me and she lied and said last night. He made a noise over the phone, like angry sigh, and he said that he was going to keep searching searching for me, that he's worried something bad has happened or will happen to me and my son. When my mom hung up, she pulled me into a hug. I guess I had started crying and didn't realize it. She was still hugging me when she asked how I wanted to proceed, if I was done with him for good. I said I was. She nodded and told me the first thing I was going to do was go to the police. I didn't have any proof about the box cutter situation. It would come down to my word versus his. If he had even nicked me a little, I'd have a case against him. But since he technically didn't hurt me, the detective said he's seen cases similar to mine thrown out. The officer did bring up ex-parties and suggested I get one for both me and my son immediately. I went to the courthouse to get the paperwork filled out. I had to detail as much as I could remember from last night. Every word in action. My mom helped me when we got them turned in and moved into the next step, calling my landlord. I've been living in the same house for 2 years. The first year was a lease and now I pay month to month. Everything is in my name and most of the furniture is mine. I told my landlord what was briefly going on and that I was putting in my 30-day notice. My mom has a guest room and she's insisting that I stay in. After getting off the phone with him, I called the utilities and closed my accounts, water, electric, gas, internet. Next, my mother asked me what I want to do about my belongings. I told her that I don't want to leave anything that's mine. All important papers, knickknacks, clothes, furniture, all of it. I just didn't know where to put it, so my mom suggested a storage unit. Mom ended up calling my 2 brothers and they both agreed to help me move. I told them definitely sometime this week and my eldest brother suggested a police presence, just in case. Think it's called a civil standby? The county clerk ended up calling me, telling me that the judge granted my ex-parties. She told me that I needed to come pick up the paperwork, which had the court date on it. She also mentioned ex-fiance would soon be served and told me that I don't have to see him again until we go to court to make the ex-parties into permanent restraining orders. She suggested lawyering up, but I'm officially burnt out on today. I'll look into lawyers tomorrow.